Being mindful of your time, we wanted to make sure we start as close to our planned start as possible. Welcome. And for those of you that are here at the United Way for the first time, the United Way itself has graciously allowed us a chance to use this as a meeting place today, to host probably our first kickoff in a decade or more. For those of us that have been around a while, we may remember we used to have very large kickoffs with lots of people and use that as kind of that starting point for our United Way campaign. When we talked about our campaign this year, and believe me, we've had a lot of meetings already talking about ways that we can enhance the experience for our employees. We said, you know what, it's probably a good idea to bring everybody back and to start again. And so what we want to do today is to share a bit of information with you, share the wisdom of some very key people who are really, really important to our success in our stores. Some from Wegmans, some from outside, but still is equally important. And then also to kind of let you know a little bit about where we anticipate the campaign going for the year. I think it's important to start with the fact that we are darn good at running a campaign, right? Is there anybody that would disagree with me? As a matter of fact, we're probably more than good, we're probably great. And the reason why we are great is because we have some super amazing employees that help us fulfill that personal commitment and corporate commitment to the United Way. So keep that in mind as we're going through this brief discussion this morning. We're already there, and it's where we can continue to grow, and our potential is where we're hoping to see have some conversation today. You're going to hear us talk about back to basics. You're going to hear us talk about simple messaging. As we progress closer to the campaign, you're going to get that simple messaging and that simple back to basics information. So hopefully we'll make it a lot easier for our employees to be successful and feel good about what they do in the community. Without going into much more, I think it's time to turn it over to Mike, because Mike is always excellent in helping us kick off. Michael. We're going to go with Mike. Thanks, Mike. You're up.
It was a shock walking into this room and seeing how many people are here. I feel like we're kind of off-site and kind of not off-site, because this feels like home, to me, for sure. But United Way, the separation between United Way and Wegmans is not very big. It feels like we're kind of related somehow as families. A couple days ago, we met with Joan and Sandy. Lynn and I got a little bit of a preview of what they're going to talk about today. Michelle was painting or scraping or doing something. But we got a little bit of a preview about what it was that they wanted to talk about today, and I think Sandy just said a little bit about it. We are going to kind of try to take things I'm not going to say take it back to basics, because I think we kind of live there, but every once in a while you got to just take a fresh approach, kind of stop what you've been doing for a while and consider and reconsider, why do we do this, how do we do this, and what are our secrets, what are the secrets to what has been an incredible legacy of support for the United Way by all of you and your folks. So I just wanted to touch on a couple things from my perspective, and none of this is news to any of you, but it's just always good to kind of like regroup it, as I said. So, what does it take to run a successful United Way campaign, or check out hunger campaign, or go after food safety, or employee safety, or all of the things that are important to us? I mean, first of all, it takes selecting the right leadership, and that's a slam dunk. I think starting with the leadership team led by Joan, Sandy, Michelle. I mean, from my perspective, I guess that's speaking from my perspective. When I think about United Way, and oh my God, what do I have to do? Done I mean, I've got people that are incredible believers, they have passion that is just undying. And I know that's kind of like next step for all of you in this room as well, is to make sure that you pick people in your store. This is a great developmental assignment, but beyond that, priority number one, I think, it's got to be that this has got to be a person that truly believes in the mission of United Way, understands the importance of the work that they do in this community, and that's really got to be, you know, kind of the test number one for you. I think in the past, sometimes we have maybe overemphasized the opportunity to give somebody a developmental assignment. It won't this be great, but there's too much at stake here to take too much of a risk with whoever it is that you are primarily going to have. Now, you know, I assume you have teams of people that are going to take this on for your particular store. But make sure a couple of those people are really, really solid, and that you know that they're going to deliver on, again, the critical mission that is before us on behalf of our community and partners. So that's number one. I think with Checkout Hunger, Tim and his team taught us an awful lot with our feels like really recent Checkout Hunger campaign and success. We really, I think, kind of took a step back this year too, right, with Checkout Hunger, and we were on a ride that was starting to get pretty uncomfortable. We were getting to a point where I think we lost sight kind of what the mission was. The mission had become like it is, and driven by this guy, but you all buy in too. The mission had become, let's just beat last year. And, you know, we had a legacy of beating it by 5-6% every year, and so you ride that for as long as you can. And so we started with, I don't know what we started with way back when, but a 3-week campaign, which became 3.5 and 4 and 4.5 and 5. Next thing we knew, you know, we had a campaign that was like 5.5 weeks, so we said, no mas, time to get off this ride, and let's regroup and consider what the real mission is. The real mission is to make sure that we help people that are hungry in this community, but at the same time, we don't abuse our employees in the process, because that's really hard work for them, and we don't subject our customers either to, you know, abuse is a strong word, but it was getting really tiresome for everybody. So we said we're going to do it in 3 weeks, and guess what? We are not going to, we're not going to say we're going to beat it by, you know, 5%, 4%, or we're going to accept a 20% loss. We said, let's find out what's possible. Let's just see if we can kind of regroup with our folks as well and do a lot of work around reminding people why this is important. Let's see what we can do in 3 weeks by making sure that our folks were really in tune, invigorated, and enthusiastic about the work that was ahead. And let's just focus on making sure that we are engaging with every single customer that comes through our stores. And let's also, and all of these things, I think, are the same approach we're going to take with United Way this year. Let's also make an assumption, because, you know, with Checkout Hunger, like with a lot of other things, we had varying results in different stores. And I believed for a long time, and I think you guys proved it this year, we do have differences in our stores, but essentially people in Western New York, Western Pennsylvania, I mean, they are a generous sort. Right? You know, this is one of the best parts of the country in terms of giving, and people really do empathize with each other, and particularly with people that need help. And so let's just make the assumption that if we go at this the same way in all stores with that energy and do the ask, then let's see what's possible. And what you all proved was that you could accomplish what it took us 5.5 weeks to do in the past. just by taking that approach. And I think everybody would say it took, it was, you know, you worked hard, but it wasn't, the anxiety level wasn't quite the same as it has been in some years, because again, it wasn't about this number. It wasn't about beat last year by 5%. It was everybody do your best. Let's see what's possible. Let's all focus on the ask. And again, your result was just stunning. So with United Way, we're going to ask you simply pick the right leader, pick the right team of people. Make sure that they are fully committed, fully educated. Joan and Sandy, Michelle are going to give you some great tools around the messaging to keep the messaging really simple. We're going to really focus on participation this year. United Way is unique in terms of giving people the ability to donate in a very simple ways, you know, through payroll deduction primarily. But beyond that, I think they're unique in terms of you don't have to give, you know, $50 a week to make a difference. I mean, we're not asking for anything more than the cost of a refill, or the cost of a cup of coffee, or a slice of pizza, or it's kind of like a 401k. You give the cost of a slice of pizza for 52 weeks. That's got big impact, and tens of thousands of people come together and do the same thing, and we can impact this community in a big way. So we want to get back to those simple messages, and you're going to hear a lot more about it. I thank the United Way for hosting us and for being such great partners. But I really want to thank Sandy and Joan and Michelle for helping us kind of regroup and get back to a place that I think we're all going to feel really good about. And they're all going to give you, again, great tools and a simple message that we can all bring back and have a great United Way campaign. So, have fun. Sandy.
As Mike said, we're definitely partners, and we're partners with the United Way on a lot of different levels. And one of the things that United Way helps us with is learning about our community and learning how we can approach the different challenges that the community is facing. So I'd like to introduce you to Michael Weiner from the United Way. He's going to share some of his thoughts with us.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Let me start by just thanking Michael. Many of you may not know this, but Michael spent 6 years on our board and has now transitioned over to our advisory council. He was also a member of the search committee that brought me to the United Way. And I'll beat him up after. A golfing buddy, and more importantly, a true friend to the United Way. So I really applaud your efforts and your leadership. I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I think, and Sandy coached me as to what maybe the focus should be here. But I would be remiss if I don't start by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Wegmans has been a tremendous partner. We are thrilled to have such a corporate leader in the Wegmans organization. You help make a difference in the lives of people in our community through everything that you do, the touch points that you have with customers, your generosity, your willingness to give up your time. It really is significant, and it's very palpable in this community. People know about the culture of the Wegmans family. When I say family, I'm not talking about Mr. Wegmans at this point, I'm talking about the family here. You guys really represent the kind of culture of giving and support in this community that makes all the difference in the world. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I think you all know the mission of the United Way. What we focus on is bringing people, organizations, and resources together to improve community well-being. As Michael said earlier, this is really a very generous community. The research demonstrates that people on average give more in this community than in most northeastern regional states in this area. And so we are really blessed. The last 5 years have been very good to us as an organization. We've had year-over-year growth after a 10-year decline in our campaign. So we're really on a very positive pathway. And last year we had over $14.4 million in revenues associated with our campaign alone. That doesn't happen without your involvement and support. And so it makes all the difference in the world. But I will tell you, and I've learned to appreciate this more and more in the 5 years or so that I've been here, it's not only about giving of your resources, making a payroll deduction, it's giving of your time as well. And so one of the things that we've done a lot of work in most recently over the last several years, we've expanded the network of volunteer opportunities that we're now managing. And Mike can tell you, having been involved with the board for many years, Day of Caring used to be the principal way that we would engage individuals in community service work. And what was it, one day a year, half a day, or sometimes a full day of service? It didn't really capture our hearts and minds in terms of our mission. And so we went back to the drawing board. We got a great team here, and what we focused on is what else can we produce in the way of special volunteer engagement events that would be of interest to the community, that would benefit the not-for-profit sector and the individuals that they serve. And so now we have really a portfolio of service, volunteer service opportunities, and you probably have heard of a lot of these, maybe hopefully even participated in some. Family Volunteer Day started 3 years ago. Business Meets Community is we replicated Day of Caring, but now we do that throughout the year for companies who approach us and say they have an onboarding opportunity and they want a small team to go and do some hands-on volunteer work. We'll do the logistics and make that happen. The Community Baby Shower is turned out to be a real fun event and one that's been extremely successful. And these are the kinds of things that we're now adding to our service menu, and it's really made a big difference, and the numbers are showing that. Each year, we're seeing growth in those types of volunteer service opportunities. And Joy will tell you later that she's a benefactor as a leader of a not-for-profit agency that serves people who have substantial needs. She benefits from not only the allocation of resources that you may help make on behalf of that agency, but it's the value of your time and your service too. So I think that that's very important for us to share with you. And if you go on our website, you'll find a lot more information available to you in that regard. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about donor trends. This is something that is consistent statewide and nationally. It's something that we need to pay attention to, and I'm hoping that you will think about this in your everyday work as well. I want to just give you a couple of ideas of some of the things that we're feeling some challenges with. What do you think the average age of our donors are? We have last year we had about 47,000 donors. Not everybody tells us their age. You know, we actually ask for age ranges. We do some projections as well, and some people we don't know because they either don't fill out pledge cards or we don't get that information from companies. But from the data that we do have, does anybody want to take a guess what they think the average, the median age is? Come on, don't be bad.
50.
I'm sorry?
50.
Yeah, very close, yes. And that's alarming to us, but it's reflective of an aging demographic. You know, baby boomers are starting to retire. Millennials are emerging as a largest growing population that are now penetrating in job market, post-secondary institution enrollment and the like. And so this is something that is of concern to us because in addition to the aging demographic, the last 5 years, the United Way has seen on average a reduction of 1,000 donors a year as part of our campaign. That's consistent with national trends, it's consistent with statewide trends. However, on the positive side, the average gift has actually increased. Last year it increased by $27. So we're really excited about that. It reflects the generosity of the people who live in this community, but it's also indicative of a trend that we need to pay attention to. And so one of the things that we've done over the last several years, or have had managed effectively even longer, is a focus on affinity groups. Many of you may know about the TOEFL Society, where people who give $10,000 or more are enrolled in a society where we provide special events and give them recognition because it's a substantial gift. We have TOEFL contributors in the room here, and last year there were close to 100, I think just short of 100, right, Gail? And it's actually represents about 10% of our total giving. It's over $1.3 million. And so it's a substantial level of contribution. It's one of those affinity groups that we need to pay attention to and recognize and hear and learn from their feedback. Leadership Society, how many of you heard of Leadership Society? People who give $500 or more. We have, over 4,000 people enrolled in the Leadership Society. We do a lot of special events for our Leadership Society members, lunch and learns with community leaders as one example. This is something that has proven very successful, and the trend has been for increased enrollment at leadership levels as well. Another group that we're very excited about, and I know there are some members, 18 months ago we started to create a Women's Leadership Council. And as a result, we have, I think, over 1,500 women leaders who are part of an association, and they do things together. They provide service, they promote fundraising, they network. It's something that we've been very excited about and we want to continue to do and grow. And now our next focus is going to be on young emerging leaders. It's part of our business plan this year. It really needs to be our focus. It needs to be the focus nationally as well. What can we do to establish a stronger working relationship with people who are in the millennial group who really think differently about their role in the community? They may want to be more hands-on involved in service. They may be less likely to give large gifts. They may be more willing to commit their time by being on a board or a committee of a not-for-profit agency. And as a result, we need to pay attention to their use of technology and social media. I read something, I did some research, I got some information that I thought was pretty interesting. And I looked at myself in comparison to some of this data. Like, for example, the highest average number of Facebook friends, I'm not even close. For the millennial group, it's over 250 friends. Here's another one. The median number of texts per day. Anybody want to take a guess? I know I may do maybe 2 or 3 a day. 50. Believe me, it's a reflection of how comfortable this cohort is with the use of technology. They influence their peers, or they are influenced by their peers in terms of what they may get involved in from a social policy standpoint. They're more likely to engage in organizations around causes. They're more likely to volunteer to a continuum of support methods, maybe one-time activities because their peers brought them into it, or on an ongoing basis. And also, they're 83% give to causes that they believe in. And so we need to pay attention to these trends, and we're hoping, when I go into a Wegmans store, I always look around and I look at the workforce, and I believe, I don't know what the percentage is, but you have a substantial number of millennials who are part of your workforce. And so, as leaders in your respective stores, how do you connect with millennials? How do you educate them? How do you mentor them? How do you give them opportunities to engage in community service? These are all the same questions we're asking ourselves, and so I would just ask you to think about those things as well. So if you text to give, which is a very popular millennial strategy, or you contribute through United Way or through your church or synagogue, or whether you volunteer your time, I will tell you, given the challenges that we face, and we'll hear more about this from Joy, it's never enough. And so what we need to do, and I'll give you some examples, we need to continue to pay attention to those most in need. We did a needs assessment 2 years ago. That needs assessment articulated some very high priority unmet needs in our community, whether it's our continued high rates of teen pregnancy, whether it's the fact that we have some of the highest obesity rates in New York State as a community, as a county, whether it's the rate of homelessness that we're facing, or you're hearing a lot more about addictions and behavioral health challenges that exist in our community, the safety of children and families, whether it's issues of family violence or it's the safety of a young child. Our education systems, you're hearing a lot about Buffalo Public Schools and some of the failings of retaining and helping kids thrive and go on to graduate and then a career or college. The reality is that there are 5 other school districts that we can identify for you that have similar graduation rates. They include organizations or districts like Lackawanna, Frontier Central, Depew, Cheektowaga. Believe me, it's more than just Buffalo Public Schools that's struggling with helping educate our kids so that they can have gainful career opportunities. And this is very problematic for our community. So there clearly are a significant number of unmet needs, but Joy will tell you, as an agency leader of a not-for-profit, there are not enough supports to go around to help her achieve her mission in supporting individuals on the east side. And so this is something that is always of concern to us, and we want not only to ask you to support organizations like this in the community and people whose life could improve, but also to think about how you can give of your time and help support the not-for-profit sector so that they can be more effective and more efficient in the work that they do. And the last thing I will tell you about the volunteer engagement piece, I think I know we did a presentation on this at our last year's volunteer appreciation, actually 2 years ago, breakfast. We had a psychologist come in from UB and do a presentation on the research that he's done on the benefits of volunteer engagement. And actually the research demonstrates that people's health improves and they feel better about their involvement in community service work. I know I don't need to lecture you on this, but I found that very enlightening for people to walk away and feel good about community service work, but to also know that the research demonstrates that there's reduced stress levels, there's improved mental health state, and those are variables that sometimes we don't even think about when we go and spend a day working in a not-for-profit agency. So let me, Sandy asked me to talk a little bit about the importance of the Wegmans campaign. I think you already get the gist, but I wrote down a couple of things that I think, from my observation, are very important to share with you. First and foremost, and if Michael wouldn't say this or Sandy wouldn't, you are the second largest campaign in all of Erie County. And last year, you generated over $880,000 in the 2014 campaign. That's damn good, and you should give yourself a round of applause. Really, just you're actively engaged in supporting the work of United Way. I think you can see that from the testimonial from Mike, from some of the examples that I've given you as well. But you know that from your own personal involvement and your leadership in your respective stores. You are definitely a significant contributor to Day of Caring. I think you're the largest Day of Caring site in terms of, or second largest in terms of mobilizing employees to provide service on that community day. You are the largest checkout scanning program around, and we're really proud of the fact that Wegmans was the first to step up and invite us into a checkout scanning program. Last year we had a $30,000 increase in our checkout scanning program, which includes 3 notable retail organizations, Wegmans being one of them, in our community, and it continues to grow. I'm really excited about that. One of the things that I didn't really appreciate, but learned quickly, was how the Wegmans, all of you, and the Wegmans leadership, spent time educating your workforce about the needs of the community. It's really, I went to a couple of presentations, and it really struck me that you were really, it wasn't just about asking people to fill out a payroll, pledge card. It was, let's educate, first and foremost, our workforce about what the needs are in the community, and that would be a catalyst for people to be more informed and make more informed decisions about their charitable giving. So that I found really impressive. Clearly, the leadership in the Wegmans family, their value of the culture of giving and social responsibility is very evident to me, and should be, I know it's very evident to you as well. And a company that cares about community also cares about its workforce, and that's why you're rated as an organization as you are nationally in terms of your customer service and the support that you provide to your workforce. It's very impressive. And those qualities help us achieve our mission. And so I want to say thank you so much for all you've done. We have a plaque presentation. I'm going to ask Mike and Sandy and Joan and Michelle to come up, and I want to introduce Sue O'Sullivan, who is our campaign co-chair for the second year. She's decided to come back and help us again, along with Jay McWhorter. You may have met her before. She's a senior VP at Ingram Micro, and she's also a member of our board, and we're really blessed to have her be here today and to help in this presentation. So I don't know if you want to come up and say a few words, and just, and then let's have Sandy come on up, Joan, Mike.
Well, as the co-chair from the 2014 campaign, and now going into the 2015 campaign, I can't thank you all enough for everything you do. I think you understand probably of all the organizations that I've been able to meet this past year. You guys really understand the needs of the community, and it's so exciting. I know many of you probably came into the city, and you start seeing the cranes, and you start seeing all the great things that are going on. And what I love about the United Way is making sure that everybody's ship is going to rise with us, right? That everyone's going to have the opportunity to have what we all have. So you get it. I want to thank you so much for all you do and for the United Way.
Thank you so much, Michael. Let's do a little photo op. Come on, go around the applause. This is our social media guru. Good one? All right, check out Facebook. This is has presented for us in the past. She's been on our speaker bureau for some time. And she's going to talk a little bit about her organization, her mission, the way they're impacting on the lives of people who are challenged in our community. Joy, come on up.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Sandy, Michelle, and Joan, for asking me to speak today. I'm just going to warn you now, you're going to see me shaking. I'm a social worker. My background is homeless outreach. If you were all underneath a bridge, I could nail this. But that's not my role today, so just bear with me. I follow 3 really great speakers right now. It's me, so bear with me.
Most of us have been under a bridge,
So I'm here to represent the Matt Urban Hope Center, and we are a program of the Lieutenant Colonel Matt Urban Human Services Center of Western New York, Inc. That's been around for over 30 years. We joined them in 2009, and our goal is to help the residents of the Broadway Filmer community access services, meet their basic needs, and help them to get out of poverty. 42.2% of them live below the poverty level. 46% are single female-headed households. The other mission that we have is to serve those who are living on the street homeless. We have a homeless outreach team that goes out at night, early in the morning, in the afternoon, to those living under bridges, to those on the park benches, to those who are squatting in abandoned buildings. Our goal is to reach them, meet their needs, and the ultimate goal is to give them permanent supportive housing so that they do not become homeless again. In 2014, we also opened up an emergency shelter for women and children called the Hope House. That was a direct response out of the Erie County Department of Social Services contacting us and saying, we need a homeless shelter for women and children that provides the wraparound services that exist at the Hope Center. Would you be willing to do this? Showed up and said, where do you need us to paint? People showed up and says, where do you need us to plant the gardens? You name it. That Hope House is an exact reflection of what Mr. Weiner was talking about people doing more than just, taking money out of their payroll, out of their paychecks, but really getting involved in the community, and I thank you for that. Sincerely, thank you for that. Okay, getting back to what we do. So what do we do at the Hope Center? So Broadway Filmer Community, we're on 385 Paderewski Drive, the corner of Paderewski Memorial. If you're familiar with the Central Terminal, we're right across the street. We act as a one-stop shop. This is the best practice model, allowing access to services and knowledge of services to the community who are highly impoverished and isolated. Transportation always comes up to the reason why people aren't able to get jobs or get services or get the help they need. So the idea is bring the services to the people. That's exactly what they do. The other idea is don't try to be everything. Know what you know what you don't know, find out who's doing it well, and invite them in to do that. And that's exactly what we do. We have over 15 agencies who come through our doors to provide their services, and over 30 that we work with in some way, shape, or form through the referral process. Our staff of 7 for the Hope Center itself, and that includes our outreach team, is literally just to complement or supplement the services that already exist out there. So we have a urban diner, we do not call it a soup kitchen, but it's a collaboration with Friends of Night people who are on the west side. When we talked to the community before we opened their doors, and that's exactly what we did, we walked down Broadway Market, knocked on doors, talked to businesses, talked to agencies, and said, what is it that this community needs? Our programming is based on what the response to that needs assessment was, and it reflects exactly what United Way's assessment said 2 years ago. We need access to food, shelter, clothing, knowledge of the services that are out there, and once again, access to them. So the first thing was food. Well, the first person I thought was Friends of Night, because I used to work there. So I went over there and said, hey, everything to come on the east side? And their board said, well, actually, yes. That was part of our strategic plan to expand to the east side. I'm like, well, we have a place for you. And so it started off as 1 day a week, is now 5 days a week. We call it the Urban Diner, because you're greeted by a hostess, you are seated by wait staff, you're asked what you would like to drink. Families sit together, because families who sit together, the kids do better in school. It sticks to our core values of providing services with dignity and respect. Those who are acting as a hostess, or are the wait staff, or are the food prep, are those in the community who either we've helped through our homeless outreach services, or one of our other services, who need this soft job skills. Who need to say, instead of saying have a blank spot on their resume of what they've been doing, they can say they work at the Urban Diner as a hostess, as a waitress, as maintenance, as clerical work, as food prep. And what they're learning, what we found with our community, what they needed to learn is come in on time. Look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. Have the right attitude, customer service, some of the things that we may have grown up with and just known because we had people who taught us, teach us these things. The people we're seeing, they never had that. So for some of them, maybe it's just regaining those skills because you've been on the street for a while and you get back off the street and you have to reacclimate. And for some of them, especially younger individuals, they just have no clue. You need to pull up your pants. You can't take that. That's called stealing. You would be fired if you were anywhere else. Like, seriously, come, things like that. Sign in. It was 1 o'clock, not 4 o'clock you were supposed to come. Yes, you come back tomorrow. We laugh, but these are the things that legitimate. And it wasn't making any sense. The first thing we were saying was, let's get you jobs. Let's take you to Wegmans and fill out applications. Let's take you to here or there, right? But then we set you up to fail. And we burn a bridge with an employer. Because you didn't have the job skills, the soft job skills, to know that you had to come back the next day. Or you couldn't dress like that. Or yeah, your supervisor can tell you that. They're your supervisor. They're your boss, right? So we learned that we had to take a step back. And even before we enrolled them in some of the great job training programs that are out there, Local Employment Training Center, the Heart Foundation, the Hope Center, the New Hope, right? Center on Jefferson, which teaches them some part like LPN, electrical work, and get some certificates. You gotta get the basics down first. So that's what we are, and we call it the Hope Works program. You'll see it on your outline here. You can come through our doors, and if that's what you need, that's what we're gonna put you through. The other big thing we found with the Hope Works program that really, the candidates that graduated and many that we've hired, including our own program coordinator at the Hope Center, is that they needed that mentorship, that professional mentorship. For our program coordinator, for example, she came in as a staff worker, right? You have to work so many hours to get your benefits. So you're called a staff worker. Come in, sweep the floor, do this, and be on your way. We said, no, if you're coming to us, we're going to enroll you in Hope Works, and we're going to train you in something. So Tasha came to us 15 years. She lived on the street. 15 years she was addicted to cocaine. She lost custody of her 3 children, and she came to us after a turning point in her life where she did want to make a change. She walked through the doors. It took the mentorship, someone talking to her on a weekly basis and being very straight with her to say, if you really want to make a go at this, this is what you need to work on. And everything I said about before we had to do with this is stealing. No, I can tell you this, I'm your boss. But it took that professional one-on-one mentorship. And it was a volunteer, happened to be my mother-in-law, who really took her under her wing to say, here's a third party, not your supervisor, who can tell you, no, you can't do that. You'd even talk to her about mothering too, what it is to reparent, and learn to be a mother, how important it is to say, I love you to your child. Just talk to the parents in the community, That's not a daily thing that some of those children hear. They don't know what that means. So it's really about reparenting. But it was that volunteer that said, I'll take the time to meet with her and meet with her to help her grow. So she went from, I know, you better cut me off because I'll go. I say I'm nervous and I start talking. So it took that one-on-one mentorship. So she went from a staff worker and said, you know what, Joy, what would it take to be an employee here? And I said, well, number one, funding, right? And number two, most of the positions here require at least associates or a bachelor's. She enrolled at ECC again. She had her first stumbling block, which was they denied her because of a past felony. So she, with Christine, and Christine didn't write the letter for her. Christine taught her how to make the phone call. She coached her through the letter, how to present herself. She got the waiver, and she was enrolled at ECC. Last month, she graduated from ECC. Christine and I were there for her graduation. A year ago, so she enrolled. 6 months later, thanks to United Way funding, we were able to hire her on as urban diner manager. She really took the other ladies that were coming through our program under their wing, and she was the natural leader. Where Tasha went, they followed. So obviously it was like, attention on Tasha. If we get Tasha, we get the rest, right? So we hired on an urban diner manager part-time, and now she's our full-time program coordinator, community health worker. She's of and from the community. They trust her. She's getting people jobs. She's getting the ladies that she used to work on the streets with housing and out of their bad situation or to rehab. The young men in the community whose choices are gang life, to be honest, gang life or struggling, are coming to us and saying, I heard you can help us out. They're coming to our doors. We work with Mad Dads to provide some mentorship for those young men through a basketball program Monday and Wednesday nights. Once again, who's in our community? The prostitutes are and the gang members are. What's going to get the gang members to stop being part of the gang? You ask them. And what they'll tell you? Jobs. But we have to work on skills. Now, I'm an outreach worker, so I can go up to them, but they're not talking to me, right? I am what I am. It's a River and White Mom. They're not talking to me. I'm screaming, right? That's what I am. But they'll talk to someone from Mad Dads who Stop the Violence. They'll talk to someone who's been in their shoes. Same with the ladies who work the streets, the streetwalkers, whatever you want to call it. Sasha, that was the first thing one of the first things she says to me when she was employed. Joy, what are we going to do about my girls who are still on the street? I said, I don't know. Let's go do outreach. That's what I know. Let's go talk to them. Those same ladies who I would drive by and ask if they need help, who were just like, move on, lady, move on. Hey, Tasha, how you doing? You know, talking to her, you know, and I'm just sitting there holding toiletries and I'm the driver, right? This is my role. What do you roll? And Tasha's like, you didn't say anything. I thought you were like, I didn't have to. They talk to you, and now we have Thursday night ladies' night at the Hope Center from 5 to 7. Come in, get clean clothes, get mentorship by someone who's been in your shoes. And some of those ladies are now in our Hope Gardens, and this is for housing for trying to homeless women. They're in our scatter site housing first, or we just help them get jobs, or we're there to take them to rehab, or we're there just to be there when they're ready to change. Same with our young men. We've partnered up with Leadership Buffalo, to provide that mentorship I talked about how Christine did that for Tasha. We wanted to replicate that, and so a couple of our, 3 of our individuals in our Hope Works programs now are linked up or matched up with the Leadership Buffalo member, coming from all sorts of companies, to talk with them, meet with them, build that relationship with them. So that's a small snippet of what we do. We have a youth program that's upstairs with a big gym. And let me tell you how that came about. You know, we have community meetings on a regular basis with the community. What are your needs? How are we going to do this together? We're not going to come and swoop in and think we're going to save your lives. If we're going to see long-term revitalization of this neighborhood, you need to be part of the solution because you have the answers and you have assets. We're just here to supplement and help you. So when we're meeting with them, the young guys in the community said, Joy, you have that gym that's upstairs and it's empty and we got kids on the street playing basketball. You know that's not true. Like, good point. At that point, Matt Urban had lost a new programming upstairs. World of Nonprofit, one day you have it, one day you don't, right? It was unused. I said, okay, what are we going to do? Called out to Stop the Violence. Said, can you bring us some volunteers? They brought us a couple of volunteers. We put the word out, open gym, 3 to 5, you know, Monday and Friday. 3 o'clock the first day, we had 3 people. I go downstairs, see that they're dining, do something, come back upstairs. There's about 30 individuals from the ages of like 2, and I'm pretty sure there were some 40-year-olds up there. I won't ask them. But it was full. It screamed what the need was, right? So what's the long term? The long term, who else is providing youth programming that can work with us while our youth programming group team is working to get increased funding to be established? We reached Urban Christian Ministries, was looking for a place to temporarily do some. We collaborated with them. Once again, what's the long-term answer? We don't want Band-Aids, we want long-term. And now we have our youth program backed up and running. We've had an after-school program, and now we're talking about the summertime. I was just talking to Michelle about this. She said, how's the Hope Center going? Well, like I said, our programming is based on what the community needs are. And what's hitting us in the face right now is summertime is coming. And those 100 youth that we see on a regular that come through our doors, we saw when we first opened as 5-year-olds are now 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And their world, it's about who's going out with whose girlfriend, boyfriend. And it's not a phone call hang-up. It's let's fight about it. Let's stab each other about it. Where's the parents? You asked. We asked the same thing. So what do? We put a call out to the parents, come have a meeting, let's talk about how we can work together. Do you know what we're here at the Hope Center to do, that we can help you provide some of those basic needs? Because we get it. You're a trauma-filled community. And we can't talk to you about moving up in the world unless we meet your basic needs. That's the whole theory about trauma-informed community. Meet the basic needs, then you can talk to them about advancing, right? So nobody showed up. So the youth coordinator, Ken Madura, and I said, what are we going to do? And Tasha was there too. I said, we're going to go door to door, because I was just mad at that point. Like, let's go door to door. So we went up the later, knocked on doors. Hey, did you know we ever had a meeting? Oh, no. And the idea is it was a trust thing. And you know, Tasha's taught me that too. Once again, I scream, right? Currently I scream social worker too. And they see me as you're going to take my kids away. You're not really here to help me. So we had to start talking about, that's not my goal. My goal is to help you meet your basic needs so you can focus more on parenting. I'm not going to tell you that you're a bad parent, but help you to re-parent. What the important issues are. So after that Friday, walking down the street, the other thing that stuck out to us was the kids were all on the street. This was 7 o'clock on Friday. Kids watching kids. We know where the drug house is on that street. It's right there. It's apparent, there's no secrets there, and there's the kids. So what Kendra and I said, it's not, we're keeping them safe, we're helping them till that's 5:30, 6 o'clock time. But what happens from 6 to 9? They're on their own still? We're going to keep reaching out to the parents and building that support, but what are we going to do in the meantime? What are we going to do in the meantime for these kids? So once again, we call out to our colleagues. Can you provide any activities for these kids from 6 to 9? How can we work? Where can we take them? The other big thing we found is take them out of the neighborhood, expose them to what they don't know, what does exist out there, so they have something to strive for. So that's what we're working on now. And thanks to United Way, supporting that programming and knowing that we can go to them for assistance and leadership, for problem solving, to say, what other resources are you supporting out there that we can collaborate? That's the advantage of being part of the United Way family of nonprofits, that you have this issue, where do you go? But you have a group of people, knowledgeable people, who know what some of the answers are and how you can bring those resources together. At 11 o'clock, I'll be going to family court to stand in front of Judge Lavaro and talk to about a 10-year-old boy that's being used by 2 older boys who are part of the gang to break into different businesses on Broadway, including the Hope Center. We'll be there to say, he's a good kid, but we need to make sure we wrap around service, intensive mentorship services, so that he knows there's other ways, because he is a great kid. We're working with Mom in Hope Works. She comes daily. She's our food pantry coordinator too. She came to us and said, she's a mother of 3. She's a good mom. I told her that. This is what a single mom is up against. The gang life, who's saying, just come, run into this house and look, if we can give you this, we can give you that, right? And that's what they were doing to this 10-year-old. You break the door, or you let us in, and we'll go get it. So when the mom said, I'd rather have him arrested so he's safe and so he gets services in place. I mean, could you imagine as a parent, I don't know how many parents in a room, that you have to make that decision to keep your child safe? And it's hard to understand, but you get it. Because the reality is those two guys are still looking for him to use him. So we want to make sure that the judge sees the whole picture. Here's a mom who wants to help, who's asking for help, who comes to my office in tears saying, Joy, what am I going to do to keep my kids safe? You know who I'm talking about. This kid who come to my office daily. Hi, Miss Joy, how you doing? Good, Jaquan, how you doing? Doing good. And in 1 week, because he's 10 and he's looking for some attention, we found it. We found it just in the wrong area. So we go to the judge. So this is part of what we do. Tasha will be there to say we're working with mom with pre-parenting. We're working with mom for job skills. She has come a long way, but we need the services for these kids that we know that are out there. And it was a phone call that day to different resources, different collaborators that I found out about Family 25 Network, what the RAP program for the kids are. It took just a phone call. It wasn't, okay, well, I'll pick them up on Tuesday. It was what's out there, who's doing it, and how can we help? So when you give to United Way, these are the programs you're giving to. Programs that are looking dead in the eye at the issues and saying, what's the long-term solution? How can we help? Because there's a lot of grants we can go chasing to help supplement the United Way. There's a lot of restrictions. United Way is very much making sure you're meeting the need that the community has, making sure you're doing it effectively and efficiently, and they keep you accountable to that. I can trust you, I do the reports and the grants, but making sure it's that long term and those needs are being met. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your support. You are helping families like Jaquan's family, like Tasha, who's then had a ripple effect. You've housed over 300 people. You've helped an average of 800 a year come through our Hope Center doors. We have 100 youth that come to our doors, and we know there's more that we're going to reach out to. So thank you for being a part of this meeting.
Michelle and I were fortunate enough to do a volunteer experience, Christmas Eve, I think it was, or the day before Christmas Eve, at the Hope Center last year. And I think we both walked away saying there is a fabulous role model for making a difference in that organization. The fact that they aren't willing to say, you're not worth my time, that they're always willing to try to do whatever they can with whatever they can. And one of the things that Michelle and I both talked about at that point is there a Day of Caring project here? And when it came time to look for Day of Caring projects this year, we looked at a number of places, but the one that stood out is the Hope Center. And I think it's not only because of the power of the story of how they're making a difference, but it's what we can do for them. 7 people are there, that's their work staff. Imagine if we drop in with 140 plus, and we do the stuff they don't have time for. We paint, we clean, we organize, we help them be as prepared as possible so they can focus on doing what they do best, which is maintaining the dignity and integrity of all of those clients. And so for those in Erie County, we're going there this year, which is very exciting. And hopefully in our other areas, because we don't want to devalue what Military Road does in Chautauqua and Erie, PA. There's amazing experiences. Look at it, Liz. I know you guys are doing amazing stuff down there, and it's happening everywhere. But this is just a great example. So thank you, Joy, for sharing a really powerful story. You know, we don't want to believe it's there, but it's there. And it's Central Terminal, where most of us have been by, or we're all very conscious of what's there. So thank you very much. A little more on the people side. And one of the things we haven't done in a long time is really hear about HR and our role in it. And so we've asked Lynn to kind of share a few of her thoughts about the United Way campaign and how we bring it all together for our people. So if we can help Lynn.
It won't be long, because I think I'm between our exit strategy here, or are you going to end after me?
We're going to show a quick video.
Show a quick video after me, okay. So I can't think of a better person to run a Hope Center than a girl named Joy. I know you bring joy, literally, and hope to the clients you serve, and you're really inspiring. And although we're not up under a bridge right now, you did nail it, so good job. Sandy had asked me to talk about participation, and when my son was 3 years old, his older sister used to finish his sentences for him, and the old adage, you took the words right out of my mouth? Well, Tommy Moore's adage is, you took my talk. And so you guys all kind of took my talk, but I've learned over the years there's nothing wrong with reinforcement. So as Mike said, participation is what we're going to focus on this year. And we know that our campaign will thrive with participation. So we want you to all focus on that. And I've talked to a couple of stores who have had great participation rates. And we asked them, how did you do it? What did you do? What is the best practice? And it all really boils down to support and visibility from all of you, the reps, the store managers, right? We have learned over the years that what's important to you, what's important to us, becomes important to our people very quickly. And so that the stores who have done a great job in getting everyone to participate did that through visibility, support, leadership, showing our people it's important to me. So we would ask all of you to make sure our people know that it's important to you. And that could look different in different stores. It doesn't mean you have to be at every single meeting. We know how busy you all are. We all have tons of priorities, but use the power of the team, use the power of your spirit to make sure your entire workforce knows it's important to us, and your people will deliver. They always do. So we ask you to take that back to your teams. The other thing, Michael, you talked about millennials. If we're going to serve all the baby boomers that are about to retire, we probably need to employ all of the millennials to make that happen. And in the research that I've done, and Michael talked about it, millennials want to make a difference. And isn't that perfect for us? It's one of our values. They want to make a difference. And I think millennials can be inspired by millennials. The other best practice that I've learned from the stores that have increased their participation is they invite influencers to be on that team. And as Mike said, not just the person that needs development, because we have a short window to make it happen, and sometimes developing inspirers takes years, right? You have 6 weeks to get that inspirer in your team, on your camp, and inspire others to give. And to think about, like Mike said before, a lot of our giving is not sacrificial. And I know many of you have been giving sacrificially. But I think for the millennials, for our young people working with us, it's as simple as a refill. It's as simple as that slice of pizza that I was going to buy anyway. So whatever you can do to bring those influencers in, to talk about the simplicity of giving, and that every penny makes a difference, would be awesome. Just yesterday, Carrie and Mike and I got a debrief from Amy Pearl, who all the store managers know now. We're embarking on using a new tool. All of you are familiar with DISC. We're doing a new tool. It's sort of like DISC on steroids. It's this DISC work of leaders. And so Amy Pearl came and debriefed us yesterday on this. And she said to us, did you know your store manager group is bold? And I said, really? Yeah, we kind of know that they're bold. She said, did you know that as a team, they are all master executionists, whatever the word is. You're masters at execution. Did you know that? We said, yeah, we knew that. And she said, did you know that they're gifted at gaining momentum? And the store managers, you'll hear all about this at our meeting next week with Amy. So we're bold, we're masters of execution, and we gain momentum. And so, I mean, to me, isn't that all you need, Joan? To run a great campaign. We are already great. We're in the $1 Million Club. I know you said 880, but when you bring it all together, we are in the $1 Million Club here, and that is really substantial. So we all do a terrific and great job with it. But think about how great you are and how great you'll make the campaign by just being visible, by just saying it's important to me. And that's for all the reps too, right? With all the things we have going on, you know that your people see what's important to you as you get throughout the store. Show that this is important to you throughout the campaign, even though you're not at every single meeting. There are ways for you to have our people understand how important it is to us. And just lastly, Mike already did this, he took my talk, but I have to thank Sandy and Joan. They think about this, like, all the time. They think about this when we're not thinking about it. They think about it when it's not campaign season. They think about it sometimes for hours, where I try to call Sandy or Joan, and they're locked behind the closed doors, trying to make things better for us, trying to help us be bold with great material, help us be masters of execution, and help us gain momentum so we have an awesome campaign. And we just couldn't do it without them. So thank you so much, Sandy and Joan, for everything that you do. And we are ready. Bring it on. Okay? All right. And thank you.
One second, I just got a couple quick things to bring. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you to all of our friends who have shared these great messages. And yes, on behalf of Joan's store, I do keep her behind closed doors a lot, and they seem to like it sometimes. That's all right. Let me give you a super quick nutshell version, and Joan and Michelle, if I'm missing anything, I just want to give you a quick nutshell version of what you're going to see coming over the next month or so. We have our first campaign coordinator meeting on June 22nd. So for the stores that haven't let us know who their one or two leads are, please do so prior to that, so that we can be prepared and we're ready to rock. This is going to be kind of non-traditional campaign coordinator meeting in that we're not going to be showing them how to work every little piece of paper, but it's going to be more about helping them learn how to share message. We have a friend from United Way who's going to help us learn how to teach them about storytelling, how to share the message so that they're more comfortable, and it becomes more of a personal, genuine rollout. And we've got some other things planned that will give them a great basis to get ready to go. We've got a lot of other activities planned, and I sent out the United Way calendar to everybody of our campaign over the next couple of months, and as we get updates, we'll let you know. We had a fun suggestion, thank you Lynn for this one. During the course of the campaign, we're going to try something new this time. Lynn talked about sharing a little love with your campaign team and making sure that you're checking in and you're having those conversations with them. I'm going to send out little reminders that'll automatically pop up on your email that'll say show a little campaign coordinator love, or have you checked in with your campaign coordinator team. Just that quick little prompt so you can go by and go, hey Dave, how's it going? Tell me what we're working on. So that there's that constant engagement. It's a simple thing, but it's it might be kind of a fun thing too, that you're going to them rather than them having to start the conversation. We're paring down the call to action materials. We were at it for quite a while the other night, right, Joan? Yes. We made progress. We made progress. Nothing is changing. The mission of the United Way didn't change. Platforms didn't change, the initiatives didn't change. What we ultimately want to see happen doesn't change, but we're trying to make it as simplistic, as easily digestible as we possibly can. So we're taking out the fluff. Similarly, if anybody's seen the materials we've given to campaign coordinators in the past, we gave them a lot of stuff because they would say, well, what about this and what about this? And so we keep adding more and more to the packet. Packet's going down. It's going to be little bits of information so that they've got the core elements, and if there's a specific need, we can be there to capitalize on that. We're also going to continue to provide those meaningful learning experiences for your teams and your employees wherever we can. We've got the Day of Caring, we've got the impact tours scheduled, we've got the poverty simulation. If anybody has other specific needs that you need those kinds of things organized, let me know, and we can do what we can to make sure that there's enough outreach and enough opportunity for your employees to go. One other big change, United Way Express, that has retired. Okay, the opportunity to have your people sit at it and go through a super quick version. Since we're returning to a simple message, we want everybody to come to the same table, to hear the same concepts, and to be able to share that. And a lot of that had depended on who was able to roll the message out. We had great success, and we had okay success. well, let's just bring it back to what we know we do well, which is a solid call to action, okay? So, there's one more thing I want to share with you, and some of you may have seen this. If not, we think it's a very powerful tool that we are going to bring into our call to actions this year. Put in perspective, about 18 months ago, I think it was Chautauqua County had a great local United Way video come out. We loved it, and we shared it with others. And Rochester loved it. And Rochester, that spurious whatever it is, that group of people with no name. So Rochester thought it was kind of cool, and they put together a video of their own. This was used at the United Way campaign for the Rochester division. But since there is also a Buffalo participant in it, and there's also some Buffalo photos, we think it makes a lot of sense to include this in our call to action, and we want to make sure you have a chance to see this as well. Thank you, Dave.
Sandy, before we start.
Yes.
There's
Sure.
something that I think we said we were gonna speak a little bit.
Okay.
The call to action is really gonna be about making a difference overall, right?
Right.
So this is not gonna be just let's bring people into a room and have them walk away and say, well, I had my annual United Way pitch. This is gonna be about really thanking them for all the ways that they have made a difference since the last time we brought them into that room. So we're gonna talk about checkout hunger, we're gonna talk about Earth Day, we're gonna talk about all of the things that they have already done to make a difference, and educate about what's new with United Way, and I think we're gonna try to give them some kind of memento of our thanks and gratitude
Yes.
for all the ways they made a difference, no matter whether they gave $100 to United Way or for some reason choose to not give at all. We're still gonna thank them for the other ways that they've made a difference for our community.
As Mike is saying, and thank you, because you saved my wrap up at the end. I don't have to do this now. But you took my talk big time, but that's all right. As Mike's saying, imagine a call to action that begins with, in effect, a celebration and a thank you of every way we make a difference. And we've got Michelle working on getting us some great data that we can share so we can give a comprehensive view. We start with that, pull in the United Way, and at the end give someone a takeaway. And we're looking at the potential of little ribbons or clip-ons on the tags that say, I made a difference, because there are so many things that we do every day that could generate some great conversation. So thank you for bringing that part up. It's really, really an important twist in the way we approach things, but it's such a logical connection. And it'll just kind of give us a fresh look to what we want to approach. Take a look at the video. Thanks, David.
I volunteer for CASH, which stands for Creating Assets, Savings, and Hope. It is a coalition of 40 organizations convened by the United Way, and the program is dedicated to helping working families get, keep, and grow their money. I do this because so many of our communities are heavily stricken with poverty, and the CASH program really shows us that financial freedom is not just a dream, it really can be a reality. I had my daughter when I was 21, still living at home, junior year in college, not sure what I was going to do. 2 or 4 years later, I was able to purchase my first home through programs that CASH helped sponsor. I it goes to someone that can really use it. And I think that's the best thing about United Way and the community fund, just giving back, paying it forward, it's the best thing that we can do for our community.
I think my mom was a single mom, and she raised 3 daughters on her own, and really just did everything for us. She was always there. She was at every sporting event, every concert, every award ceremony, and really just was the rock, the foundation of our lives and our childhood. And then we started getting calls from neighbors saying she couldn't find her house, or she was knocking on other doors thinking that she lived there. So we realized there was a problem.
You know, I think the kids first started realizing it. You know, she'd ask like the same questions over and over. You know, she wouldn't remember the details of each kid. So, you know,
You see the changes, definitely. The hardest thing with Alzheimer's is you say goodbye 100 times. You say goodbye to them being able to drive and being able to live on their own and be able to feed themselves and be able to talk. And it's just saying goodbye over and over again. And I read a quote that has stayed with me that we missed our mom most when she was sitting in front of us. As part of the United Way, the Alzheimer's Association is a terrific organization with such focus and passion around caring for folks with Alzheimer's and also working toward a cure. Their goal is a world without Alzheimer's. And I became involved with the association with that goal in mind, so I could do whatever I could to understand the disease and fight for a cure and funding and more research. So ultimately, no one else in our family has to deal with this.
well, I think, you know, part of our healing, going through what we've gone through, it helps us heal to be able to help others, knowing that you don't have to go through it alone. I mean, that really helps us get through, I think.
My son Kevin was born. He was the last of my 3 children. About 6 months to 9 months, we noticed that Kevin wasn't turning to sounds. He wasn't hearing properly, and I thought, oh, what's going on? Just a mother's instinct. I knew in my heart that something was wrong. And the doctor said, oh, no, he's fine. So, and there was a United Way lady that they hooked me up with, and within a month, Kevin was at Children's Hospital. He was getting surgery. He had some inner ear problems, some tubing problems, and they said he was cured. Someone or you may need the United Way. So please, please, do what you can and make a donation.
What do you think? So we're gonna build this in to the call to action, because we think this is just a valuable tool for all of our employees. It's, again, simple, heartfelt, very genuine, and I think it will help us accomplish that, that anyone can be touched with needing some, and need some help. So that's what we have for you today. We really appreciate your attentiveness. We threw a lot at you in that small period of time. Thank you to our presenters. We couldn't have done this without you. And thank you to all our guests. We have a lot of United Way help sitting in the, helping us out and visiting us today. As we progress, we'll keep you posted with information. Please let Joan, Michelle, and I know if you have thoughts, ideas, things we can share with others. And thank you again to Mike and Lynn for giving us some great direction on this. All set?